Hi, I'm Frances Katzen, and welcome to my podcast, The World of Real Estate. In this series, we will explore the world's largest asset class and how it plays out on a global scale. I'm really looking forward to today's conversation because we're diving into a side of real estate that doesn't really ever get the spotlight, yet it's so paramount. I think it's essential. Property management. Yeah, everyone's sort of like, really? But not just any kind. The white glove, high-touch management tailored for New York City's rental, pied-à-terre clientele and market, which comes with its own set of complexities, expectations, and clientele. How many times people say to me, I'm not going to be able to manage this while I'm traveling or I'm living abroad. Joining me today is someone who has helped redefine the space, Dylan Pichulik. Dylan Pichulik is the founder and CEO of XL Real Property Management, a firm responsible for overseeing more than $7 billion in real estate across the city. Dylan started his career in real estate at just 18 years old and went on to lead asset management for major development firms before launching XL in 2012. With a clear mission, bring elevated service and accountability to an industry that often lacks both. I'll second that. From managing high-value homes for part-time residents to navigating the evolving demands of New York City rental markets, Dylan has become the go-to for owners who want a peace of mind, a performance. Dylan, I'm so glad you're here. Let's start from the beginning.
Frances, thank you so much for having me today. I'm super excited to be doing this with you, and I'm looking forward.
You're amazing. I think the work you do is top-notch. So you launched your real estate career just at 18? Really? What drew you in at such a young age? You didn't watch a reality show. And what did you learn in those early brokerage years that shaped your leadership style today?
So I got into the business because I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and my family in Atlanta did real estate. My family in Boston did real estate, and I was going to NYU, and I said, okay, I don't have much going on this summer. I'll get my broker's license and just see what happens. And so that was my parlay. I got my broker's license. I immediately did nothing with it, and then I started realizing I could rent apartments to my friends and make a lot of money, and then I had a friend who was actually an RA in a dorm at NYU. And I was like, wait, can you get me into all the dorms and I'll teach all the kids on the process of renting apartments in New York. I'll do it right before spring break. That way everybody's looking. And it was literally the best business idea I've ever had. And it skyrocketed me.
How much do you make?
I had to start referring everybody out because I had so much demand. Everybody wanted to use me because I was just like them. I'm like, okay, let's go out. We'll have a picture. And then here's your 3 options. So, at a certain point, I got so busy and then I quit because I was like, okay, I want to learn more parts of the business. And my boss is like, you're going to quit? Are you crazy? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to quit. He's like, don't quit. That would be the biggest mistake in the world. But I decided I wanted to go work on the development side, and they switched me over to the development side, and then I went to go work for a developer. But it was the most...
How long did you do that for?
I was a broker practicing for probably 2.5 years. I took my last final exam at NYU. I went to the top broker party right after at the Soho Grand for City Habitats. It was insane. And I loved every bit of that experience.
And I bet half of the relationships you made then have carried forward, if I had to guess.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm now managing these apartments that I sold my friend in college, and they used them, and then they went away, and now we're renting them out. And somehow the first apartment I ever sold, we're now going to be managing it because the daughter moved to LA, the son moved to Philadelphia, and now I'm managing the first apartment I ever sold in New York City.
Talk about full circle. You've worn a lot of hats. So broker, now asset manager, now CEO. How have those roles informed the way you approach property management differently than your competitors?
I love the breadth of experience that I have because it taught me so much about every facet of the business. Development, sales and marketing, asset management, a little acquisitions. I've got to learn everything in little bits and pieces. And I would say not as much what I was working on taught me, but the people that I met along the way totally influenced how I operate. And I had terrible bosses, ones that treated me like garbage and everything was wrong and, just made my life a living hell. And at the time, you hate those people. But years later, I'm like, you were the biggest blessing in my life. You made me good. You made me raise the bar on expectation. And as much as I didn't like going through it, just getting kicked in the ass every day, I'm thankful for that every single day now because it made me good.
So good in discipline, good in preventative, good in just understanding that the consumer needs a certain level, all of it.
All of it together. I mean, look, we work in the top of the market here in New York City. So, like, it taught me about expectations. It taught me about reliability. Most importantly, for property management, we do what we say we're going to do in a world where no one does. And we're anal as hell about that. We do what we say we're going to do. Whatever we promised you is what we're doing.
I always find it staggering that if you're hiring someone to represent on behalf of a building, why it's so hard to get them to respond in real time.
You know, you find that a lot. And actually, I have my own podcast, and I'm doing an episode next week with this. It's called Managing Manhattan. It's sponsored by the Moore Network. And I'm going to be interviewing the CEO of Brown Harris Stevens Property Management because I want to hit all these hard questions. Why can't you respond? Why can't you turn the board package around in time? Why isn't the super helping me? But, you know, the condo co-op management game, which is probably what you're most familiar with when you're submitting board packages, that's a whole nother model. I personally am not into that model. It's not our cup of tea. But, you know, you have incredibly thin margins. You have a lot of processes that have to be followed. It's a tough game. And then, you know, it's always the race to the bottom fee with clients. And you only have so much budget to hire the best and brightest.
That's actually very true. And I think that leads to my next question. You built Excel Management to roughly $7 billion in real estate. What was the turning point for you when you realized that this business had real scale? Besides the rental.
I'll have to say, in retrospect, it was a rough go. Property management is one of the more stressful fields. We're here to fix problems every day.
Why this? Out of all of what you've done, why this one?
Why Excel?
Just why property management? As a general matter.
It happened by accident. Like, I was at a developer. I really didn't like the work I was doing. I got this opportunity because we were working on, I was working on a project in the financial district, and I was running project management on that. And some of the investors came to me. They're like, look, I'm not getting profit in this deal. I'm getting apartments. I don't know how to manage. I don't want to be a landlord. I live 5,000 miles away. Like, go find someone to do it. I tried to go find them someone to do it, and I couldn't. I'm like, these are big money guys. Like, what's out there? And there was only two kind of mediocre options that would have worked.
So it's like I'll look after the cleanup.
Oh, basically, painting. I was like, please, just don't make me underwrite another deal or make a financial model. Like, let me go try it and see. And it was a rough go at first. Like, you're trying to figure out like the way and how to do it and all these kind of things. And it was very stressful.
So finding vendors on speed dial.
Finding vendors, just the process. We have 100,000 pieces that are always moving. And I learned we were very good at it. And then, you know, within a couple of years of us starting, the New York Times reached out. They're like, hey, you know, this is back in 2012. The foreign investment story was very sexy at the time because of all the money coming to New York. And she's like, can I come hang out with you for like half an hour? I just want to like learn more about it. And then she showed up and she's like, can I spend the entire day with you? I'm like, you know, I know I make it look fun, but literally I'm just getting yelled at about leaks and broken toilets and
all the time.
The dishwasher drain line being clogged all day. And she like hung out. She's like, and I thought she hated me. I'm like, this woman absolutely hates me. She wouldn't respond to anything I say. And then literally 3 weeks later, I wake up and they're like, okay, this article hit. And I'm like, wait, I'm on the front page of the real estate section of the Sunday Times. And I was like, okay, maybe we really have a rodeo here. And that was kind of the turning point. And from that point, and that was maybe 10, 11 years ago, it just, you know, tons of blood, sweat, tears, and sleepless nights, and here we are today.
So would you say it is as frothy as real estate in general? Because once you have a client, you're just managing it, meaning...
Did you like how I said it's just managing?
You're managing their shit. Okay, but what I mean by that is the client is signed up.
Correct.
And then it's just the day-to-day. But how? Okay, we're getting there.
Well, it depends on, look, our approach is much different. And if you come to my office, I mean, we do not take any bullshit at Excel. We're very serious about what we do. I have the absolute best team in the world. Everybody is chill, but everybody is dead serious about what we do. And we have an incredibly I mean, Excel works on apartments, you know, $50 million in value, $100 million in value, sometimes $200 million in value. There is no room for error in those kind of assets.
How are you hiring the right person to go into that apartment if it's not you?
Oh, we're incredibly tough. Like, we just ran a job search recently. Francis, I read through 1,700 resumes. 1,700 resumes. We want to know everything. We are very particular
Can you
about.
do a criminal background check? You can't, right?
I don't know about criminal background checks, but we do properly vet everybody. It's not, kind of in the later on you get, research more in depth, but just in the initial screening, we want to know where you worked. We want attitude, organization, reliability. How are you responding to us? We're very tough about who we hire.
I'm sorry, I'm going to go one step further. What happens if they go in and something goes wrong and it really isn't their fault, but it doesn't matter? How many times have I had that where a broker will open up a window, literally?
I remember the story. This was on our unit.
That's how we worked together. We had a $9 or $8.5 million asset, and it was these double height cantilever windows in Soho, and the broker opened it up per the client's request, and it never came back down.
Yeah. And look, stuff like that happens all the time, and you did nothing wrong. You just opened a window. The window was finicky. I mean, the good news about property management, and I've learned this very early on, everything is my fault. Everything is my fault, no matter who did it, how it happened, why it happened, when it happened, where it happened. Dylan is the problem. And we learned that very long. So we just got to deal with it and roll with the punches. And things happen all the time, whether it's nobody's fault, whether, we have a lot of clients that don't like to respond to us. They like to hire, and then they hire us, and then they run away off into wherever they are, and you get a response every 3 months or something. And, the show must continue whether you're responding or not. We have a tenant who's paying us rent. We have activity going on, and it's always that delicate balance of doing everything you can to protect the client, make sure the tenancy runs okay, or if there is no tenancy, make sure the apartment still runs smoothly, even though they're not responding. But we need you to respond, and you just got to protect them to the extent you can while, hoping nothing traumatic happens while they're off on sabbatical in, the jungle or wherever they're going that they can't respond to us.
Property management is often overlooked in the real estate ecosystem, in my opinion. What do you think the most people misunderstand about the value and complexity of what you do?
I think a lot of people don't understand what they're signing up for. I mean, we run two different models at Excel. We run those who rent out their assets and those who live within their assets. And on those that rent them out, they have no understanding of New York City housing laws. They don't understand what it's like to be a landlord and deal with the bureaucracy of the condo or co-op building. So I think people underestimate the importance of it, and also how strict the housing laws are and, those kind of things. So I think people often don't understand how difficult it's going to be. And if you have a professional who understands what they're doing, it's a breeze. But if you're sitting in Europe and you're like, oh, I want an investment property, do you want that call at 2 o'clock in the morning when something's leaking or, something's broken and you don't know who to call? Like, people don't really get it.
But there's only one you. And I mean, how do you penetrate a tough co-op board? If they don't like you, what do you do?
That's half the battle. And a lot of these people don't want to, look, the problem with condo and co-ops, the management company really works for the board.
100%.
So if you're not representing a board member, they really don't care about anybody else to the extent they're not going to get in trouble. Our secret weapon is we work out of everybody's buildings, and we've been doing it for so long that we have a lot of the higher ups, and the last thing anybody wants is throwing the president of your company on CC on an email showing you didn't respond to us for a week or two, because Excel is friends with all the property managers in New York. We view this as cooperative and collaborative, and we don't want to throw anyone in the bus, but if you're going to treat us in a way that we can't get anything done, and in a world where it should have been done, we've got to escalate it.
Ooh,
from a complexity thing on the owner-occupied side, and I know you're a big part of this segment right now, those who are buying big townhouses and apartments. And, the idea of a townhouse is fantastic. And then
except when it's not.
Except when it's not. And you close on your townhouse and you show up and you're like, okay. And people are like, well, what I need to know? I'm like, okay, we have a boiler. We need an exterminator, backflow preventer, elevator, HVAC, AV, gardener, sprinkler system, fire safety system, a sidewalk to worry about, a roof to worry about, a facade. I'm like, other than that, it'll be a breeze. No problem. Good luck.
Now, do you have a vendor list that gives you a discount? Is there a way to get those numbers down for the client?
Yeah. I mean, we try to get our numbers down as much as we possibly can. We all day are scrutinizing invoices, scrutinizing new vendors, trying new people out. And we want to make sure that we get our costs as low as we possibly can. We also want to make sure that we're protecting our assets because, sometimes saving money is not your friend. There's a few categories in life you don't want to save money. Plastic surgery, sushi, and property management.
Oh my God, you're on fire today. I love it.
It's words to live by. My only pearls of wisdom for today. Don't save money on the sushi or the plastic surgery or property management.
So you've talked about elevating service standards, right? In an industry where they're often lacking. What does exceptional property management actually look like in the day-to-day client experience?
In the day-to-day client experience, I think one of the most important things that people should look for when interviewing a property manager is responsiveness. It's such a world where people don't respond. We need you to respond. Both at my company and elsewhere, the story's the story. Sometimes you have bad news. Sometimes that part's delayed. It's on back order. But if you let people know what's happening and that you care about them, that diffuses 90% of situations. Just pick up the phone and respond. Let them know what's happening so they know what to expect because they have a life to live. And that's organization and responsiveness are the two most critical components of this exercise.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's so simple.
It's so simple.
Answer them. I tell brokers, why have we not heard back from this person? Do they not want to sell the property?
Yeah.
Just let us know. Communicate. We're good.
We're good.
What would you say has been the hardest thing for you as someone running this?
When I originally found the ad on Craigslist to do this, I thought this would be so easy.
Little did he know.
Little did I know. I think the hardest thing is you always have this vision, and when you're a kid, you're like, oh, you start a business, and then you run the business, and then it runs itself, and you sit at home and you collect a check. And that is the opposite of what happens in any business.
They say that in brokerage. You just turn a key and make 6%. I'm like, all
you've got to do is open the door. You go to Pastiche. You splash some champagne in someone's face when you don't like the offer they're giving you in the apartment. You shake hands. You make a deal, and you collect a $200,000 check. Right?
That's
brokerage.
Your Botox, yeah.
And then you go get your Botox after that. But I think the biggest challenge is, and look, we're blessed in that from day one, Excel has grown. We grew through the pandemic. We offer a very high quality product. We have a fantastic reputation in the city. But you always think, okay, now it's going to be a little bit easier. I have more help. It's like, no, now you have more work.
More management.
But
Are you a good manager?
I mean, I think I am, but I'm sure other people would.
What makes you good?
I think my passion and commitment to what we do makes me good. I think it's to care for my employees. I don't want people stressed out. I don't want people dealing with abuse. If you are a client and you call my staff and are abusive to them, I will call you and be like, hey, we're here to manage your property. We're not here to
be cursed
at. We're not a punching bag. I even had to call up a client 2 weeks ago because I don't know what happens, but sometimes he just flips out of my staff, even though we haven't done anything wrong. And it gets back to me. And I'm like, you will under no circumstances curse my staff. If you're frustrated and you need to vent somebody, here's my cell phone number. You call and you curse me out anytime you want because I signed up for this. I run the show over here. Don't call my employees and curse at them. I get you're frustrated. This is not their fault. They're trying to help you. I don't like that.
I love that you have their back. I'm the same. How long can they handle being in your business? I mean, is it a burnout business for them?
We have a good track record.
Yeah?
I mean, I started Excel 13 years ago. Our CFO's been with us for 12 years. Our COO's been with me for 11 and a half years.
Wow.
Our director of operations has been here 7 or 8 years. I think the thing
out.
I love about property management, you can either hang or you can't. I mean, some people just run right, it doesn't really happen with us, but they run right after they're crying. It's a game that is great if you can handle it. If you can't handle it, it's not the right place.
And when you say handle it, what comes to mind with that adjective?
Look, we're here to solve problems. You don't hire property management because there's no problems. You hire property management because there's always going to be problems and somebody has to solve them. And some people don't have the acumen to deal with it. They don't want to deal with it. And it's a thankless job. Nobody ever calls to say thank you or whatever. And
you're not getting cookies at the end of the year?
We do. We get cookies. We get a little, token of appreciation and stuff like that. But it's a tough job. And, when something's not working, especially I just came from an apartment, a $14 million apartment, and the AC's broken, they're going to be frustrated. And they're going to be incredibly pissed off when it's 90 degrees and you've got to take it on the chin and keep going and keep them calm. It's a tough gig.
Wow, that
but
is tough.
every gig in life is a tough gig. There's
But
not a
this
single
is-
job that doesn't have pros and cons to
This
it.
is kind of like a meter maid. You're going to get killed whether you like it or not because you're always going to ask them to pay to do the servicing on behalf of the asset
Yeah.
a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So managing a pied-à-terre, for example, comes with unique challenges. They're not there. How do you balance the privacy and security and functionality for absentee or part-time owners? Now I'm getting in the weeds.
Yeah, look, that is one of the toughest things that we face at Excel. We have an incredibly high-end portfolio, or
High
deck
net
of clients,
worth.
high net worth individuals,
And it's a high-class
well-known people.
market.
And, we are not taking pictures in the apartments. We do not talk about who we work with.
Has that ever happened?
It has luckily never happened, but
Wow.
it's because we got to juggle the vendors and the whoever goes in the apartment. Like we don't want them to know who they are or anything like that. I actually have clients where I don't even know who they are, and sometimes a loose lip doorman once told me, "Oh, by the way, do you know this is the prince of whatever?" And I'm like, "Oh no, I didn't know that," because we're dealing with the wealth manager and the business manager. So sometimes they're so high end we don't even get to know who they are, but we have to be careful. Any publicity we do, it's never in an apartment. It's never talking about somebody. I would never post a selfie with a client. I mean, discretion is paramount in this level of the market.
For a client who uses a property just a few times a year, what are the most important operational details they overlook until they go wrong?
Literally everything. I was actually talking to a broker the other day, a broker that we work very closely with, that he keeps trying to push property management. The client doesn't want to pay. Nobody wants to pay more money, but it's...
Let's just stop there. How bad is it? How expensive are you?
We're not expensive at all. And if you look at the level of the market that we're dealing with, even in the mid-grade, like we're really not expensive. I mean, on the rental side, we charge 5% of gross rent. We slide it down to, if
That's
you've
the
got...
best 5% you'll ever make.
Oh, to not have a 2:00 phone call, to not have to chase a tenant for rent, to not have to deal with a leak from above that's not your fault. It's the best money in the world spent.
You have to spend money to make money, I believe. And
Absolutely.
I think that's the best
And by the way,
allocation.
if you don't have a property manager involved, people are like, oh, I've got it under control. I don't need you. And then and then I'm like, oh, you don't need me? No problem. And then the first thing I do to prove that you need me is I go to the Department of Finance. So I check your property taxes. I'm like, do you know you haven't paid property taxes in a year and a half? Nobody ever told me I had to pay property taxes. I'm like, okay, well, you owe like $8,000 in interest now. We need to get that paid. But I don't need you. I'm like, oh, okay. And then the second thing is, show me your insurance policy. Let's make sure you're okay there. I don't have insurance. The building has insurance. I'm like, maybe you need insurance.
Honey,
Let's go get
you're
you a
gonna want
policy.
insurance.
And then like, no, when we have a problem, the tenant just calls whoever he wants, and then he deducts it from the rent. I'm like, the tenant does not care about saving you $1. When that refrigerator is broken, if it costs $20,000, they don't care. All this stuff, and it's like, I'm like, have you been back charging the electric to your tenant because it's on your common charge bill? I didn't know I was paying for the electric. I'm like, oh, you could have gotten $7,000. I found $7,000. I'm like, you're worried about $350 a month, and you just lost $7,000 down the drain. The tenant already moved off.
You're
You have no
good.
case. People don't want to pay it, but also, look, we had another job on 61st Street, and the shower leaked, and another company came in. They called a plumber. He's like, yeah, I need to rip the tile out. I need to order. We can't get the tile, yada, 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 yada. And I'm like, okay, let me see what I can do. I brought a plumber, and then 30 minutes later, I'm like, okay, here you go. They're like, but you didn't break any tile or anything? I'm like, no. I'm like, here's a bill for $400. He's like, they were charging me $25,000. I'm like, okay, well, would it be worth the $1,000 a month you'd have to pay me?
Well done.
It's all of these stories, and the less they think they need you, those
more
are the
they
guys
do.
with all the
Yes.
problems.
It's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. And what do you charge for sale?
For sale?
Yeah.
What do you mean for sale?
Like it's 5% of the gross rent for rental.
For gross rent, and on the PA to tear side, the owner occupied side, it ranges. I mean,
Got
we
it.
start at 500, we go all the way up to some clients. Some clients we need literally a NASA space engineer to help run them. That's going to be a higher price, but
Got
it's
it.
all based on how frequently we're inspecting and what your needs are. Some people are like, just go pop in once a month, and that's fine on a mid-building condo. At some point, if something tragic happens, you'll hear about it pretty quickly because it'll affect the neighbors. But, there's some clients that are like, no, I want you to hit it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and that's kind of a different thing. But it all depends on the asset. But these people that are leaving all these vacant townhouses, like, what are you guys doing? You have to have somebody check those things.
It's pretty scary. On the rental side, how has tenant behavior or expectation shifted in the past few years, especially with more remote or flexible workforce in New York City?
I think the pandemic kind of drives a lot of this argument because during COVID, we had a moratorium on housing court and we weren't allowed to sue you. And that then, for the ill-intended, gave you this license to be as much of a jerk as you wanted to be, not realizing you're impacting somebody else's financial situation while you play games and don't pay us the rent and laugh in our face about how housing court's closed. So I think that kind of empowered more bad behavior. That being said, I hate talking about this topic because everybody thinks this is one big New York Post article and we're going to get screwed on a squatter tenant. That's not what's happening. If you scrutinize a tenant, 40 times 1 month's rent is income, 700 credit score or above, some money in the bank in case life happens to you, we are fine. Almost all the time in those cases. When you start to bend the rules a little bit, no, I was desperate, or I didn't check his credit and he told me he's rich and he knows all these other rich people and he gave me this spreadsheet on Excel of all the art he owns. He owns $70 million in art. Of course he's going to pay the rent. That's where you have the problem. But I think the pandemic and also just the general circumstance of the world right now, like everybody is, just a bit, turns up a bit, let's call it. Like edged. So that definitely has not been our friend.
Dylan, what neighborhood or asset class in New York City is most underrated for long-term rental yield or appreciation in your opinion? Not a broker, you.
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm an opportunity person. Like, I like to see people buy where there's opportunity. Look, the good news, if you buy in the West Village or in Soho or Greenwich Village, those are good assets to hold.
It's like a stock.
It's like a stock. There's always demand there. There's always a community that wants to live there. I like to look for opportunity if you're going to buy real estate.
What does that mean to you?
A neighborhood on the come up where you have to deal with a little more
fringe
nonsense and fringe than you'd want to. But I love opportunity. I mean, it depends on your appetite. Some people just want a gold level stock. They just want Bleecker and Perry Street. They want to hold it. They want to give it to their kids. They want it to slowly go up in value. But when you start looking in, Harlem or Brooklyn, a neighborhood that is changing, I mean, that's where you see the real big yields. You don't see those as much.
Greenpoint is that to me.
Greenpoint.
It's on fire right now. There's been growing tension between owners and city regulation in New York City, from rental laws to pied-à-terre taxes. How are these policies changing and shaping your day-to-day operations?
See, now you're giving me high blood pressure because nothing makes me more angry than all this populist legislation that keeps coming out, and we're about to have another big Fair Act. June
11th, the biggest counterintuitive other hit for the broker community.
Where we're no longer a free market anymore, apparently. What was wrong with the old system? And we're not going to let those brokers take advantage.
So for those of you who are not aware, it is a legislation that basically turns the procuring party from paying the fee on behalf of a rental to the landlord, which means the landlord's now responsible not only for yielding his rent roll, but also paying a procuring fee. It can also be marketed as no fee to the person that's coming in, unless, of course, they specifically hire that broker and they agree to pay that broker. But I'll let you lead on this.
So basically, guys, and what Francis just said in layman's terms is the city threatened to protect you, but really they're just raising your rent by 10% because the landlord doesn't have 8.3%. So this is going to be national, or not even national, statewide.
Price you out of it.
Price you out in a world where nobody wants this. We like the old system better, but we keep getting regulation after regulation after regulation, and it's all very reactionary.
Who's driving this?
I'm not really sure, but a lot of it makes no sense. We have this whole parapet thing now. We have to inspect the parapets, and I understand the intention. And they're the city's go look at your parapet and let us know if you think you have a problem and detail what you see, and we'll audit it maybe later. It's so we have this nonsensical thing that you're not even going to enforce in a real way unless you decide you're going to enforce it later, where we're telling an average owner to go inspect his parapet himself. Who benefits?
I cannot tell you. I happen to agree. There's been some discussion that the people that are creating this legislation are people who are actually really unkind attorneys who don't like brokers, and because of that are trying to hammer it. But the problem is it actually ultimately impacts the city.
It all does.
The minute you add friction costs, you're now in this other sphere of pricing. So
you're just destabilizing the market. And look,
100%.
You want wealthy people to stay in New York. Like I'm in Florida now. I'm in Texas because I don't have to pay income taxes and it's safer there. Like we're not here to alienate an entire market that the city needs to survive.
But we keep doing it.
We keep doing it.
And it's so sad. It's like, how many more punches can we take? But I also hope it gets reversed, much like some of the other stuff. But let's see.
I think some of it will. Look, at some point, on the rent stabilization thing, before you had a rent stabilized asset, it had a future value when the tenant got out. But like now we're permanently making it stabilized, basically. Like how broke are you going to make landlords and how much despair are you going to cause before you have to reverse the laws? Like what are we doing?
We need
what are we doing?
Mayor. That's all I'm going to say.
We do. I don't know if you're looking at the options. I'm not too hopeful.
Yeah. There's one. She might be very good.
I hope so.
What's been your biggest challenge as a founder?
As a founder, my biggest challenge in all honesty is just like that drive for perfection in an imperfect world. And that desire to always be perfect, to always,
Where does that come from?
I had a rough childhood growing up, and that probably like had a lot to do with it and faced a lot of adversity. And I found as I grew up, like those who face the most adversity tend to
want to control
kind
it
of rise. Yeah. And you just have this desire to do better and not end up in those circumstances again. But I think just always wanting everything to go well, always, striving for perfection in an imperfect world, it's the absolute road to hell.
Would you say you found some level of happiness in it? You're satisfied a little bit more, validated a bit more, I guess?
I don't know if that's in my DNA. I don't know if I don't know if that's the way my mind works. I mean, I feel, at this point as a father of three, my every thought is like, am I representing myself in a world that's going to make my kids proud and strive to be better people? Like as a father now, like things change when you have a kid. It used to be, okay, I want to make more money. Okay, I want to be more successful. Okay, this. And now it's like, will my kids be able to look at me and as a source of inspiration?
It's funny you said that. I think for me, it's been, will my kids respect the way that I operate always? And so that means taking out a bit of the vinegar that sometimes comes up.
Yeah. No, the kids make you better people in a way. Because now every time I interact with my kids, my underlying thought is what I'm saying going to cause permanent damage to them? Even when you're frustrated, you're whatever. Is this inspiring them to be leaders one day? And my kids, knock on wood, don't have the adversity that I faced. And in a way, there's benefits to the adversity. But how do we make you proud, strong people in a productive manner?
Wow,
it's tough. That keeps you up at night.
Always. I worry all the time. Outside of the business, what keeps you grounded in the fast-paced world of New York real estate?
What keeps me grounded? I mean, the good news about running a business and being a father of three is there is zero downtime. I have a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 1-year-old. And sometimes the downtime is going to work at 9 a.m. on Monday. And I'm like after a weekend with all 3 boys, I show up at 8 a.m. on Monday and have a palm tree in my office. I'm like, I'm in Tahiti right now. But no, I mean, I'm so with you on very lucky to have such an incredible wife. I love hanging out with her and she's always so inspiring to me. And, that is like a breath of fresh air just to get to have dinner with her and get to hang out.
Date night.
Rarity. No kids. We do make it a point to go out at least once a week and, call grandpa, please come. We need your help. Those kind of things. But, I love to travel. So anytime we get to run away, just go see new things. I mean, that's the real inspiration that drives me.
Wow. If you weren't managing property, what career path do you think you would have followed?
I never would do it professionally, but I really enjoy teaching. And a lot of what I do is speaking to audiences about whatever topic and doing presentations. And I've been invited to NYU's business school a few times to give lectures. And I find a lot of joy in it. I don't think if I did it professionally, I would find joy. But part of me wants to be a teacher. I think that'll be my giving back when I'm, old and retired. But I find a lot of joy in it.
That's so funny that you just said that because I'm all about paying it forward. I'm so grateful for what I have that for me, I pay it forward. I open the kimono, I share my secrets. I don't have a thing about it.
I love that because there's so many people who are shielding things and they're hiding things probably because they're, bullshitting everybody. But
share it.
Bring people up with you. Let them look.
There's enough for everybody.
You're a great example of how to make it in this world, right? You weren't handed this real estate career. You had to roll up your sleeves and get in the dirt. And I had to roll up my sleeves and get in the dirt and let people know there's hope and you can still do it.
I think that the new generation needs a little bit of resilience and that you can do hard things and it's not going to be handed. And I do worry as a mother that my kids are much more protected, but it's a fine line, right?
I find the new generation a little bit scary, and I hope
right?
some of you are going to be hard workers. And somebody
they give up too fast.
Somebody asked, a good friend of our family asked, "Could you, interview my grandson? Give him some part-time work." And I always need some little task, whatever. Mm-hmm. So I texted and he's probably 22 years old. I texted him and "Hey, can we have a call tomorrow morning? 9 a.m." And he writes me back, "Dear Mr. Pichulik, yada, yada, yada." I was like, "Do you mind if we speak in the afternoon? I'm not a morning person." I'm like, dude, you are in the worst economy I've personally seen because I was kind of on the younger side in 2008. You have no job. You just graduated college. I would, if you asked me when I was 22 to have a call with you at 3:30 in the morning, I would have set my alarm.
100%.
And brought you coffee.
And they look at you with a straight face.
Yeah. Oh, no, it was dead serious. And I was like, as a piece of advice, I want you to do well. Do not ever say that to a potential employer. Ever.
I had a summer intern with us. The last day was a couple of days ago. And I asked if he could bring the pitch book to me because I had no assistant for a week. He was on a boat in the Bahamas. God bless him. And I was sinking. I had booked 2 pitches at the same time. It was anarchy. And he said, "No, I'm sorry, I'm on a train. I've got to match my train to go back to Westchester." And I thought, okay, we're good. Done.
I still work like crazy, but I remember growing up in my professional career, I worked till about 8 a.m. till 2 a.m., probably at least 4 days a week. And there ain't no, life ain't no crystal stair. If you want to make in this world, you got to hustle. And, they talk about, there's no opportunity, but you have to create your own opportunities.
Nobody
sometimes.
Feeds you.
Nobody gives you anything.
And if they do, it's not going to work.
Oh, no. That's the worst thing that could happen.
100%. What would be your advice then today to the younger you just starting out?
To the younger me just starting out. I personally I take on a lot of stress, and I think younger me should have stepped back and say, it'll work out. I think the most important things you do, you wake up, you smile, you say yes. Oh, wait, this is something that you shouldn't be doing. You say yes, and you try it out, and you give it your all. And if you do those 3 things, and I'm no genius, I'm not, a billionaire, but we've developed a great reputation. We're on the pathway to what will hopefully continue to bring us great things. Those 3 things are simple, and if you ignore one of those 3, you're in for a rocky road.
Well said. What's your secret sauce? I think I know the answer. I think you've mentioned it, but I'm asking you.
Probably my secret sauce is that I care in an unhealthy way. And I want everybody to be happy. I never want somebody to, I believe in a scenario, and just like Excel came and created a win-win for everybody. The owner doesn't have to manage the apartment. The tenant's not having to get somebody who cares about them and understands local regulations. The broker's no longer paying de facto manager anymore. They don't want to manage the apartment. That's not what you're here to do. The condo management company doesn't have to deal with an absentee owner that's not responding. We developed this whole situation where everybody wins. I like it when everybody wins.
Me too.
I don't like people. I'm not here to take more than my fair share. That's not the road to success for me.
100% agree with that philosophy.
I like scenarios where we can all win. And I do that by caring, simply caring.
Wow. What would you say is your biggest achievement or win in your career?
My biggest achievement or win in my career. I don't know. I also have difficulty celebrating what a win is. A win is when a client says thank you. Or actually, no, I actually had a win this morning. I woke up and somebody said somebody that we work closely with said, I'm the GOAT of property management.
Dude.
And I was like, that is a win right
That
there.
is all you need.
And to know that we made somebody happy and to have a tough situation that we were able to pilot you through, that's a win to me. The accolades and whatever is not the wins. It's not what really affects me in a way that like I'm on the right track.
That genuine connection and trust.
Yeah, like we fixed this. I got this bad situation resolved.
I get you. What is your favorite part about your job?
My favorite part about my job, really, it goes back to the teacher thing, educating people on what to do. I mean, we interface heavily with the brokerage community and to, try to take the ego down from the broker. I've been doing this for 20 years. It's like, okay, well, just because I, didn't wear my seatbelt for 20 years doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Just because you never had a car accident doesn't mean you should all of a sudden cancel your car insurance. It's, helping to, especially in this ever-changing environment, because we've had boom, 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 boom. We've had no break on anything from any direction over the past 5 years. It's, educating people, teaching people how to do it.
Wow. When you're not working, what are some of the things you do to unwind and stay sane?
I love hanging out with my kids. They're, pains right now at the AHR, but they're the cutest things in the world. And, for Mother's Day, we made mommy some perfume and I really loved it. And they were so into it. This store on Bleecker Street. I've got a big golden doodle who's my best friend. And we, aside from my wife, of course. And we, just hanging out with him and, just walking around the neighborhood. We live, in the village. We go to Washington Square Park and watch the musicians. I mean, it gets
very simple.
Just living life. No, that's the real joy. It's not, I love rock climbing or parasailing or skydiving. It's like if I could go watch the piano guy with my 3 kids and on a Saturday morning or Sunday morning in Washington Square Park, that's the real actual unwinding. Everything else is just adding on layers of stress in some
100%,
way, shape, or form. It's like
100%.
Or they like this Danny Go, this YouTube guy, and they watch the videos, and even the 1-year-old starting to dance, and I'm like, that's happiness.
It is.
And then I realized I'm old, but for the better.
I mean, I as a mom of 2, and I would say that they are amazing. They are also the most complicated and complex.
Yes, they're a little older than my kids. I'm
6 and 12 is different. You're in that baby phase, which is pure, utter exhaustion.
It's exhaustion,
exhaustion.
I'm scared for your phase because that's a lot more of a mental game that we have to play.
But it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
But it is a lot. Okay, here it is. What's your biggest vice?
My biggest vice. I let things affect me in an unhealthy way. Like in a way that like if something happens, I take it personally in a world where like I stress over it, I want to do everything, but I take it to my core in a way that sometimes it's not that serious, but to me it's serious.
I also think we think that that's what sets us apart. So we stay attached to that way of operating when you know it doesn't serve you because you're worried you'll lose your edge, but actually you graduate.
I don't think I've had somebody articulate it that clearly, but that's exactly what happens. It's like a defense mechanism in how you've dealt with the world.
You don't have to. Yeah.
And luckily, my wife is much more like spiritually inclined than I am, and like tries to coach me through. It's like, are you benefiting yourself by being so upset you don't want to talk to the kids and you're just like closed off? Like, are you solving the situation? Is there any productivity? Like, but I feel like if I didn't do that, that I'm softening in a way that I'm not here to soften.
I can tell you this as someone who's been doing it a certain way and have had to let that go because it doesn't serve me. It's actually opened way more, but it takes courage and time.
I could tell it's a work in progress or work in progress, and I try more and more. And okay, fine, you can you can have 10 minutes and just go have the biggest pity party in the world and go cry and take a shot of tequila. And 10 minutes later, like let it go. What are we doing to fix it? And that's it. No, but that was incredibly deep of you.
I want to say thank you so much for carving out time out of your insanity to be here today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you.
Thank you, Francis. This has been an incredibly fun podcast, and you're also an inspiration, especially these past few years, to watch you just skyrocket is
funny.
nothing short of inspirational.
Very sweet. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.